Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. As always, shout out to the 19. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm tired. I got to tell you, I'm tired. I won't dwell on it too much in this video, but go birds, right? Come on. Uh, but what I do want to talk about, have some new Fever news. One of the things we kind of all thought was coming for the Fever, but just not quite sure how it was going to happen. And here we have it. Katie Lou Samuelson is no longer a part of the Indiana Fever. They have parted ways. What does that mean? That's a great question. Now, one of the big problems with Katie Lou and Christy Wallace, and I really hope that the plans are the same for Christy Wallace if they're letting Katie Lou go, who is a better player, and I think she was an important fit for that team. No one has anything bad to say about her. I thought she was great for Caitlin Clark. But unfortunately, these things happen in sports. I'm sure I'm going to see it very soon with my Eagles because when you go and win a Super Bowl, then contract things start happening and start getting renegotiated and all that, and trying to fit them all under the salary cap becomes an issue. So there were different options. What we know right now is that this is a buyout. We do not have an amount, but we have a buyout, which means most likely with Katie Lou set to get 180,000 this season, the Fever gave a lesser amount for Katie Lou, and then money comes off the salary cap. Don't know the details as to how the WNBA plays with that when you have a buyout, how much can come off of the salary cap, but that is what's happening. They have freed up some calorie cap space by having a buyout with Katie Lou, and that means I believe with a buyout she's going to, and at least from what I found, also she's going to be on the wire. No, I don't know if that means teams, starting from the worst to the best, kind of like the draft, can pick her up on waivers. I don't know if this is the same as what you would do with waivers, but they did say she'd be on the wire for 5 days. So that is my thought. And then she becomes a free agent. And the understanding here is that she has already been in discussions with 4 other teams, which is, that's a third of the league. So good for Katie Lou. I think this is probably the best thing for everyone. I think it's a shame she never, she had the baby, came back from that, wasn't really herself at all last year, and is still coming back from that. She wasn't great in Unrivaled, but she also wasn't a player getting a ton of time, but she did look better, and she had her moments where she played better basketball, and she just looks fitter than she did all last season. She looks like she's moving a little better. Hopefully she finds a team that is a good landing spot for her and that she's able to play the way she's capable of playing, because I do think she's a good player. I also think she's a great locker room presence. I think she's the type of player that you want on your team. You want in your locker room. The Indiana Fever talk a lot about culture and how important that is, and Katie Lou is the type of player you want in that situation. Unfortunately, the previous regime made that rather difficult with Katie Lou's contract, right? My guess is we would not be having this conversation if Katie Lou Samuelson was making 90,000 or even 100,000 instead of 180,000. Of course, next, gotta be next. And by the way, I mean, all in the comments too, and doing research on this, and people that I know that I just talk to on a regular basis, nobody has a bad thing to say about Katie Lou. And it's all kind of the same reaction of, hey, you know what? Really stinks. I hope she's able to latch on with someone else and come back. It's unfortunately one of those things you have to do in sports. I just talked about this in a recent video, if you remember. I think it was the one about Caitlin Clark and her fans following her, the Kelsey Mitchell video, and how normal fandom is you support teams. And yeah, it is tough at times when players that you really love leave, whether it's they get traded or they get cut or or they leave in free agency. It is tough, but it is part of the sport. I think the WNBA is going to start to understand that more with more eyes on it as fans look at it, and it starts to become more like other sports in that regards. So I feel bad for Katie Lou. I think it's good for the Fever. It is the right move. Now, as you see, what I was going to say next, Christy Wallace has to be taken off this roster. She has to be taken off this roster. They need another buyout. Now, we freed up one space. This was a team of 12 again, so now it's back to 11. I don't know that the Fever are... I don't know. It actually wouldn't surprise me if they started the season with 11. I don't know. Obviously, they have plans in the draft, regardless of whether they're thinking that's the spot that fills the team. Of course, they are going to make their draft pick, or maybe they'll trade the pick before then. Maybe they make the pick, and depending on who they get, that's to set up a trade. Or they might say, hey, we're going to take our pick. We're going to bring them into camp. Bring some other, unsigned players into camp, see what happens, see who performs the best, and then that's the player that we're going to sign for 12. But roster as is now, Kelsey Mitchell, Christy Wallace, Natasha Howard, Aaliyah Boston, Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hall, Damiris Dantas, Jaylen Brown, Caitlin Clark, Dewana Bonner, Sydney Colson. That is the 11. Katie Lou, this has to be updated. She will not be there. It is a deep 10 at this point. That's the other thing. I don't want to get off into a whole nother topic on this with when it's about Katie Lou, but just briefly, that right now for me, the Indiana Fever are 10 deep. They are a 10 deep team where it's really going to be, it's going to be interesting to me, and I'll probably do another, like a full-on breakdown video of this. I am going to do a Fever roster video in terms of how it might look this season with the offense and who's playing where and who's getting minutes, who's starting, what are the rotations going to look like, and all of that. Because right now for me, they are 10 deep. You can look at this roster of 10, and obviously there are some advantage, some you lean to, like, hey, Caitlin Clark's going to start and play a ton of minutes, and Kelsey Mitchell's going to start and play a ton of minutes. And then after that, for me, it gets tricky. It gets tricky as to who gets the minutes, where they get them. I think a lot of it's going to depend on who's playing well, who's in games, who's showing up, who's practicing well, who's fitting well together, what type of rotation looks best against the other teams, or because the Fever can create mismatches. They've got a little more height, right? Dewana Bonner's a forward guard, but she's 6'4", which I believe she's the second tallest player on the team. Or maybe not. Maybe that's Dantas. No, she's listed as taller than Dantas. And Aaliyah Boston, I believe, is 6'5". So this is a team, Aaliyah Boston's 6'5". This is a team that can go really small in terms of how good they are, right? That was another thing Katie Lou didn't do well. And again, I think coming back from the baby and how she looked, she wasn't moving well. Hopefully she gets better with that. But this is a team that can run you into the ground with small ball. So you're also going to have matchup issues, which I'll get into in another video. But, Sophie's 6'1", Lexi's 6'1", Kelsey's, I think, 5'8", Howard's 6'2". This isn't a really, really tall team. But I think they can work that to their advantage with the type of players that they do have. So I'm going to leave it there for now. I really just want to discuss the Katie Lou thing and what that means for the team. It opens up a little cap space, which they absolutely needed because they were over the cap with Sydney Colson. They could not go into the season that way. I don't know how much it frees up. As soon as I find out, I'll factor that into what may be the next move, because now the Fever are a roster of 11, and that could be 10, because I really do believe Christy Wallace has to, I was going to say suffer the same fate, but that seems kind of mean. But basically, the same type of situation. I think a buyout with her is the best option. I'm going to leave it there. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I really do appreciate all your support, and I will talk to you later.